A very warm welcome to our session today, where we discuss the findings from our recent research programme conducted in partnership with Trinity College Dublin. We will explore the potential for people, intelligence and innovation to collaborate as the financial services industry moves towards a people-centric operating model. Thank you to all those attending across the world. Your support is very much appreciated. My name is Martin McFadden. I'm a member of the executive leadership team in Xarion, and we're proud today to be coming from Xarion's new innovation hub in the heart of the financial and technology community in Dublin, Ireland. Before we begin, I'd like to say a word of thanks to those of you who actually participated in the research itself. Your time given freely, your shared input, and your cooperation generally has been very much appreciated. And you're seen very much as a key stakeholder and key input to the findings we will discuss today. We have a very thought-provoking agenda, a great lineup of speakers, and some very interesting content to get through. I will hand over to Anya Sherlock, our head of marketing, who will act as host for the session and get things moving with an overall discussion around our findings. Stephen Ralph, our head of product, will then cover two core topics in conversation with our lead researchers. Initially, he will be in conversation with Dr. Joan Cahill from the Psychology School in Trinity, where they will discuss integrating wellness with intelligent data, before he moves to talking about the potential for that people-centric operating model in financial services with Professor Yufi Wang from the business faculty within Trinity. Anya will then introduce Michael Foley, who will look at things in his role as head of sales and solution engineering from a customer perspective, and look at the opportunity for an innovation agenda to create ongoing impact within the financial services operating and business models. I'd like to now hand you over to our host, Anya Sherlock.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Martin, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. I'm delighted to be part of this project and to have been one of the authors, along with my colleagues, of this highlights report of some of our key findings in this research. I think the best place to start is to explore the challenge that we tackle as part of this. And the best person to do that is our lead researcher, Dr. Joan Cahill. I'm going to show you a clip from Joan, who's going to discuss a little bit more about this.
I think the key challenge is maintaining and pursuing healthy work as a concept and embedding it in work systems and a work culture and work processes. And in doing it in such a way that workers benefit, but also, the customer benefits and the company benefits. So looking at the business case for healthy work as well, and linking up, I think, benefits across the triple bottom line, and having healthy staff, so staff that are, presenting to work in an engaged fashion, as opposed to having, higher levels of absenteeism. So we need to manage health in work and outside work. And really what's new here is saying, well, there's loops between the two. The time in work counts and how you experience your day counts. And possibly because a lot of workplace wellness initiatives have tended to be quite superficial. They, haven't really got into the detail of the lived experience of the job and what health in work as you perform your work is about. So yoga is not something you're doing while working. It's something you do alongside work, on a lunch break or in time out of work. So really what we need is solutions that embed health in the performance of the job. in how we undertake our work and how we experience our working day. And that's really what's innovative and what we're looking at. And in our case, everything is technology mediated. So work is managed and monitored or supervised via technology systems. So what we're saying is these also have a role. But I suppose in an effort to introduce technology and promote productivity and efficiency, the focus, if you like, has been on the work itself. And really what we've been saying is, well, the work is one aspect or one dimension, but also you need to look at who is performing the work, so the workers, and also who is this work for, so the customer. And if you like, you need to straddle three perspectives: the work, the worker, and the customer. Technology has been introduced without actually looking at the interrelationship across these perspectives. And if they're all jointly optimized, there's better outcomes. And I think this is really what we're trying to achieve.
So I want to jump into a few areas that Joan has touched on. You might have heard in the clip, she mentions the business case for well-being. And I just want to show you some of that data from the report. This is from Gallup Consulting, who say that the cost of absenteeism caused by ill health in work, which work-related stress can be a contributing factor to that, as well as a lack of engagement in work. And what they're saying is that the cost of this is actually a lot higher than you might think. So as you can see here, the business case for healthy work and for enabling a healthy workforce is well established. I also want to have a little look at the key insight here. You might have picked up on the example that Joan gave about yoga being something we do alongside the job. And this really refers to the key insight that was uncovered as part of this report, which is people want more than just yoga and fruit bowls. They want wellness integrated into their day-to-day. Now, this insight gives us a bit of context to the challenge as to how people's needs and requirements are changing today. And this is true especially for the younger generation who expect, to have different expectations of work. They uphold healthy work practices, and they really want to see this being integrated into the day-to-day. This is actually an important factor when they are going to choose to work with a company or indeed not work with a company. And we will look a little bit later about what integrating wellness actually looks like. But the big opportunity here for businesses is to reimagine and remodel operations. This redesign of operations should include a greater visibility of people, of work, and it should have controls that enable flexibility as to when and where work is done. Really, it's about putting people at the centre of operations. And all of this is enabled by intelligent data and AI. And this is really going to support this people-centric approach. And data was something that came up again and again throughout this research. And we've really earmarked it as imperative to set up and support these new ways of working in this rapidly changing landscape. To discuss a little bit more about integrating wellness into the day-to-day, I'd like to invite my colleague, Stephen Ralph, to have a little bit of a chat about this with me. Thanks a million, Stephen, for joining me. So let's talk a little bit about integrating wellness. Doesn't sound like the easiest thing to do. And I suppose before we really dive into this, the best place to start is to look at, I suppose, the pain points and what we're calling the stressors that we've identified as part of this research. These were specifically causing work-related stress or could be specifically linked to dissatisfaction in work. So could you firstly tell us, what were these pain points highlighted?
Yeah, I think there's a stat shown at the introduction reel to show how stressful people found 2020. It was a real kind of hit to people and the way that they were working. But from the research and what the report will highlight, I suppose there's three key stressors or pain points that really came out from that research. And the first of those are primary, first and foremost, was the lack of visibility around work, workloads and deadlines. On top of that, then the imbalanced workloads that people found themselves having to deal with. And thirdly, and not least, that the change to remote working really brought a lot of social isolation into the workplace, into the workers, and that really became a kind of a stressful environment for them to work in.
Absolutely. I don't think any of us, got away with it in 2020, unfortunately. I think the design of work systems should absolutely consider human factors. Let's look at some of these key areas that we believe are crucial in terms of integrating human factors with intelligent work management technologies. And we're going to have a little clip again from Dr. Joan Cahill to explain this.
The allocation system and the allocation technology needs to foster and support a healthy workforce. And there needs to be clear indicators, visible indicators in a dashboard as to whether this is being achieved. And when we're looking across, benefits to the customer, benefits to the person or the worker or to the company, what are those indicators? And is there an appropriate balance across each of those entities? I think all smart allocation technology needs to include, I suppose, social inclusion in the workplace, and it needs to consider that employees have different kinds of abilities. There's a spectrum there, that it enables worker autonomy and flexibility, and that it properly recognises the contribution of employees. So in terms of performance management and monitoring of performance.
Looking at the data, how can an intelligent work system actually help to overcome work-related stress and foster a better working environment?
You mentioned at the start there about how imperative data is, but that data has to be actionable. It's got to be real-time data at all levels of the business, and that's key to solving these issues. Transparency came up time and time again. Having the right data, visibility of that data really helps here. But then it's about having the controls to actually make changes, take corrective action if needed, especially around imbalanced workloads. And then there's the concept of using AI for good. And what I mean, these are preemptive practices, recognizing stress at the source, specifically around using AI for the smart allocation, can help to ensure fairness and healthy work practices. And that ensures the employee is engaged and happy. We also recognize that there's been a big focus on new digital ways to communicate, but this needs to go to a step further to help people collaborate no matter where they're working from. And it's more than just a digital task or like a list of work or a whiteboard. It's actually being able to pass the right work to the right person, to be able to flag issues in real time. And on the flip side, it's about capturing wellness in work in real time to better understand what is healthy and good for any one person.
So the ability to be able to balance workloads. Unbalanced workloads was even surprising to me how much stress this really causes an employee on a day-to-day. We are going to watch another little clip now from Joan all around some ethical considerations that we should take into account when considering an intelligent system that makes decisions on behalf of people. Let's take a little look.
The intelligent work system that we're introducing will make decisions that have consequences for people. So the work system needs to be considered as a moral agent, and we need to ensure that the system is designed with the right kind of ethical behaviours and values, and so that we actually get tangible human benefits. But once we're connecting people with other people and we're capturing data, particularly data about someone's performance and work and aspects of their health, there are real ethical issues. So the more that we're using automation and robotics and AI and using data to make good decisions about people and to support people, we have to address that flip side. If our decisions aren't good, we then are answerable to that. And I think the regulator, certainly around psychosocial risks, the regulator is looking at this more closely, particularly with the COVID experience, with people working remotely and everything largely being technology mediated. We've seen massive changes to people's health and work and the way that they interact with each other and perform in teams and the way that they account for each other's work and call out each other's work, because there's, I suppose, more visibility. And I think this really needs to be looked at, and the time is now for this.
So we've heard a little bit on how to integrate wellness, And what the report explores is how the people-centric model has emerged as a requirement. And further than that, it enables operational departments across the business to move to new ways of working. So I caught up with Professor of Operations Management, Professor Hugh Wang, and we spoke a little bit about the traditional operating model versus the new operating model. Take a look at this.
When we talk about people-centric model, we need to think about what is the traditional type of business model where people only focus on the tasks. If you look at the factories or the traditional manufacturing industry, usually when there's a task coming in, there is a job coming in, people think about how to finish this task, how to finish this job. So everything is based on the jobs, the tasks. So this is called the task-centric model that we were using for many, many years. But nowadays, things have changed. We need to focus more on the welfare of our employees, the welfare of people. So we invent this some new concept, which is called people-centric model. In this model, when we are doing the matching, the allocation, the optimization process, we put people in the center, meaning that we need to think about what is the best way for us to help this employee to finish all the tasks and at a very sort of high quality level. Think about how we can invent new ways of allocating tasks and also managing resources so that we can achieve a better performance. This is sort of the mindset change from focusing on the jobs or activities to focusing on employees.
So, interestingly, what the research finds is that the shift to focusing on employees is going to require a level of visibility and a level of communication throughout the company. And so aside from technology, what is the other requirement here that's really needed to remodel and reimagine operations?
Eufy mentions a shift in mindset, but also along with that, there's also the shift in culture and levels of trust that will need to be established. Addressing issues around trust is really key to a smooth transition to remote and hybrid working.
And the report finds that depending on the culture of the business, monitoring can equate to distrust in some cases. So how can leaders kind of overcome this preconception that may be, in employees' minds?
I kind of already talked about using AI for good, but it's also about the positive communication and productive communication that will help productivity. And we talk about trust, and this is no longer a nice to have. Building trust is a necessary condition for healthy work and well-being, and it's an important factor in terms of productivity and employee engagement. And a shift to a people-centric model, I think we'll talk about this in a moment, lends itself to even greater trust, greater visibility, and even better and open communication.
Absolutely. I do think trying to generate trust in the enterprise is something that we've been trying to work towards for quite a while. So there you have it. Trust is no longer a nice to have. Now, to understand at a bit of a deeper level what this journey to the people-centric operating model actually looks like, let's listen to Professor Hugh Wang.
So I think that the first hurdle we need to get over with is the mindset change. So people need to sort of change their mindset from the job-centric or task-centric model to people-centric model. The traditional allocation process was sort of a mathematical model where we have the tasks and we have the deadlines, we have the resources, then we think about what is the best way for us to finish the task. Usually we try to finish the task as soon as possible. But now if we are looking at the people-centric model, there are more factors we need to consider when we make decisions. Nowadays, because a lot of companies have their own information systems, actually a lot of information has been stored, but the current sort of model does not really use the information stored in the system they already have. For example, they should have history data of an employee, what kind of jobs this person has finished, and how long this person works each day, and is this person working in a team with other members, Are there any collaborations or interactions between this person and other people? We need to make use of the information and the history data. Also, we need to think about the skills that is needed for the activities. And also we need to think about the training we want to provide for employees. People-centric model can also consider people's career development plans so that everyone can not only get the job they are good at, they can also have the opportunity to learn and acquire more skills. So by incorporating all those informations into the allocation model, by looking at the need and the requirement of employees, then we should be able to improve. So these are all the human factors that people need to consider if we want to achieve this people-centric model. In order to improve productivity, then we need to make use of the data that we already have. We may want to change the task variety and also to change the way that we assemble teams so that we can encourage people to work more actively in a better working environment. All of these can contribute to the productivity and also work well-being. And finally, I think at the bottom level, we need to think about what technology we need to use. Nowadays, there are a lot of softwares can allow you to allocate human resource. However, not many of them actually consider human factors. I think the organizations should also have the courage to embrace the new technology so that they can achieve better productivity in the organization.
So very interesting there, some of the points from Yuffie. And he does kind of allude to productivity gains, which is a very clear advantage, when moving to this kind of operating model. But I suppose aside from productivity gains, right, why would a business seriously consider adopting this new way of working?
Well, if you consider the employee experience, wellness not only leads to productivity, as we've mentioned, but it's more sustainable because it's a healthy approach to work. This level of wellness in work leads to a better employee experience. And we've learned over the past year and a half that the employee experience is just as important as the customer experience. But another reason to move to this model is flexibility. There is a responsibility on the enterprise to put the welfare of the employee first. I mean, over time, different types of jobs are going to become obsolete. That's just the nature of the way things will go.
Sure.
But flexible teams of cross-functional, multi-skilled people is how organizations are going to work in the future. And I suppose the last consideration to think about is transformation. Focusing on people will lead to a successful transformation. Too many digital transformation projects fail. And I think the people has been a missing piece to the puzzle that is yet to be solved. If we implement AI and we work closely with the people who use it every day to find new innovative ways of working, this is key to true digital transformation becoming a reality for financial services organizations.
Absolutely, Stephen. I think your point on realising digital transformation is so important and so relevant for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's chat a little bit about the practical side of things for a minute. To talk us through a bit more about the intelligent platform, what's available today, and how we'll actually bring this research data into something actionable is Michael Foley. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Anya. Firstly, I just wanted to say how important this research and the results of the research are to Zarian in terms of influencing our platform roadmap. It's helped shape our roadmap over the last year and will continue to influence that roadmap for the foreseeable future. It's just invaluable to us to get this kind of feedback from the research, from our customers, from the market in general. Secondly, I think the research validates the people-centric approach we've taken to work management for the last 5 or 6 years. We focused on the team approach to work in terms of looking at the people, the skills, the capacity, their availability. The team has really been central to what we do. Our slogan has long been the right work to the right person at the right time. And we've recently added the right place to this. This is really in recognition of the fact that work can be completed anywhere, okay? And that's just the modern reality. We're now building on this people approach, tackling the issues highlighted in the research, especially around motivation, isolation, and changing roles and responsibilities.
That sounds great. And just on that about validating our people-centric approach, here's some of the key data that we've uncovered as part of this research. This is actually what the participants said they would expect from an intelligent system. So just to highlight some of these key figures here, 92% say the work management system should provide predictive forecasting, real-time data about capacity, work volume, work status. We've got 82% say the work management system should ensure people are working on the right work. And we've also got then, 95% say the work management system should provide a daily planner with suggested tasks and notifications of potentially late work. So again, this is kind of around the potential for AI, which we will touch on a little bit later on. But firstly, can you tell us kind of what are we doing today? How can we support people with intelligent technology?
Yeah, good question. So what are we doing? Okay, the first thing to say is we're working on a virtual assistant for the agent. This is about an assistant to act as a coach, to prompt, to encourage, to provide feedback to the agent, and also receive feedback back from the agent, helping them plan their day, focus on the priority work, and really it's also a mechanism for engagement across the organization. We use two analogies here, the first one being the coach, which I just referred to, and the second being almost acting like a Fitbit in providing real-time performance stats, which can help motivate, help to make better, more informed decisions. You can see the influence in technology like the Fitbit out there in the real world. People recording their steps, I think 7,000 today, etc. So it really introduces that competitive element to their behaviour.
Sure.
On the collaboration side of things, we're looking at using existing technologies out there like Microsoft Teams to allow collaboration and work. So facilitating the real-time review of that work, enabling any actions to be taken where appropriate, so working together on a piece of work. And where appropriate, we can record these actions to ensure a full audit trail. Again, this is really about facilitating engagement within the organisation. In terms of how people interact with work on a daily basis, we're further enhancing our work allocation rules. Okay? We're looking at getting that right mix of work that we assign to the agent. As you've heard already, there's an optimum mix of work in terms of variation volume that ensure better job satisfaction. And the better the job satisfaction is, obviously, the better it is economically for your business. I should also mention here compliance and the need for organisations to be compliant with legislation like the Working Time Directive and indeed their own internal policies. So it is important that the data we provide or make available helps them be compliant with these directives and policies. It's about getting the right mix of automation, interactive support, and engagement.
That sounds great. And we just touched on data there you've mentioned. Tell us a little bit more about this. I mean, what's the real value here when we talk about data?
Yeah, I mean, data is key here. Look, we've always captured really valuable data in the platform. We know when work arrives, we know what the work is, we know what the deadline is, we know who it's being assigned to, we know the steps it took in the process, we know who completed it and when. Okay, and we combine that data with business data. We can slice and dice this in any way we want. We can look at it by broker, by client, we can see it by product, we can buy by third party, and you can really see the value that this provides the business having this information available. So what we're looking to do here is enrich this data even further. Okay, it's capturing information around the quality of work, the feedback we get from the customer when they engage with us, feedback from the agent when they process the work, and we're looking at whether the item has been escalated, reworked on. Really, evaluating performance is not just about how many items you do and how quick it is. There's other factors involved.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to stress here that all of this data is available real time to all levels within the organisation. That's from C-level to operations manager, to team lead, to the agent themselves. This allows for better, more informed decisions to be made across the business. Allows the business also to be more agile, more proactive, less reactive. Okay. Also, AI automation has a role to play here. Okay. So what we're doing is we're using this data to provide more predictive forecasting information about capacity. We're looking at not only the short term, which we do today, so we're looking at that 3-day forecast, but what we're looking to do next month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years down the road, provide that information to the business. It's really all about providing that depth and breadth of data, real time across the organisation, and you can really see the value of that data to the business.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we can see, data is definitely invaluable to the organisation, and even more so as we look forward to the hybrid workplace and blended teams of people and working from different locations. And I suppose automation is going to impact this across the board. So tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, it's not just the pandemic and how work practices have changed over the last year because of the pandemic. This is really about a fundamental change in the way people work that's been happening for some time. It's the influence of automation was always going to impact how people work and how organizations operate. People's roles are changing. They're working in an environment with more and more automation. We have a concept of a blended workforce combined of digital workers. So that could be artificial intelligence, it could be an RPA, it could be a batch job, it could be just a call to an external website, and working with people. So in our platform, we treat these digital workers as just another member of the team. We assign them skills, schedules, we allocate work to them in the same way we would to an individual. We provide that visibility and orchestration of the blended workforce. I guess this is especially important for some organizations where they have processes that are both manual and have automated elements as well. Okay. So we see the future here as a combination of that people-centric approach, augmented by and working with automation. I suppose it's really back to the right work, to the right person, at the right time, in the right place.
That's perfect, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me today. So next up, I'd like to share some exciting information with you about the next phase of this research. And what we really want to do is move past the conceptual understanding of intelligent work, integrating well-being through a people-centric approach, and actually look at some of the realistic day-to-day use cases. To do this, this will involve simulation, analysis, and verification of the research data we've already gathered so far. And we'll have a look at, the impact of this across the workforce, across processes, and of course the impact on the customer. We do have a strict deadline on this, so we are looking for customer commitment as soon as possible. This is a really exciting opportunity to be a part of this innovative research and be one of the first enterprises to design and implement these new ways of working. So if anything there today interests you and you'd like to get further involved, please do contact us. Finally though, I would like to leave you with some key takeaways. First of all, it's all about supporting and enabling people. This new way of working really is about doing right by your workforce, because work has fundamentally changed and work is no longer a place. So it's really about trying to optimize the work experience wherever possible. Secondly, we're focusing in on the work environment and integrating well-being and a people-centric model that is enabled by intelligent data. This will really help to achieve a modern and enjoyable working environment for your employees, as well as an agile and connected enterprise. And finally, this is about ensuring sustainable economic success for the business in the future. So by bringing together your people, your data, and developing new ways of working with a layer of agility and proactivity, this is what's going to enable the business to be successful in a rapidly changing landscape. So if any of the topics discussed today were of interest, we would be delighted to discuss this conversation with you further. And indeed, if you would like to deep dive into any of the data you see in the report, please do get in touch with Michael, Stephen, or indeed myself. Thank you so much for joining today, and we hope to see you again very soon.